This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand dawning, great rising, Cleveland, and the rest of planet Earth. Welcome to another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest today is someone who is an author and has previously appeared on Open Door, and I counted her a few weeks ago. She was kind and gracious enough to attend a performance that I did of Unmasked, Navigating a New World Order, and I just happened to find out that she had written a new book, so we are here to amplify this new book and the continuing series. She is Grace Rice, an author, publisher of her own children's picture book series, God's Perfect Gift, Disability Through the Eyes of a Child. She's also a blogger and created Good Grief, a safe, non-judgmental community space for healing. And she's also an activist who is advocating to improve nurse and nursing aid to patient care ratios in skilled nursing and inpatient rehabilitation facilities in the state of Ohio. And we'll talk about that too. Just so happens that I also encountered a very good friend of hers, Jesse Ruffin Jr., at the same event. And I was privileged to have a conversation with him in the relatively near distant past. So welcome to Open Door, Grace Rice. Grace, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you, Vince?
I'm doing well and very happy to have this conversation with you. So you have a children's picture book series called God's Perfect Gift, and you have a new edition. So tell us about this new book that you've written.
Yes, the new addition to the series is Special Education is Especially Fun. And I'm especially excited about this particular book because of its application in so many different areas, to be used not only as an entertainment book for children to be read, that need to be read to educate and inform and kind of shine a light on the brilliance of children who live with disability, but then also it's a real value-added asset to any school system that is charged with building social and emotional learning competencies into special ed curriculum. And so that makes me very excited because it has, wide appeal to educational institutions around, the globe, really.
Yes. And I think it's really important that we take a look at this idea of disability. We live in a politically correct world now, as we have for the past few years. And I'm hearing new terminology when it comes to identifying people. And I think the new terminology is differently abled. But what I do know about folks who are differently abled is that in the workplace, they are often even more effective workers than those who are otherwise abled. The other thing is that for whatever reason that there's a stigma attached to special education. And then there's the whole rabbit hole that Brother Umar Johnson goes through when he talks about people being identified as special needs and so forth, and the funding and all of that. So we can talk about that a bit, but obviously you have a passion for serving children who are identified in that way. What would you say is your motivation for wanting to advocate for them?
Well, what really got me involved, Vince, was having guardianship of my infant granddaughter, who was born with cerebral palsy and therefore born with multiple disabilities. And so she, as a result of the cerebral palsy at birth trauma, she is not able to communicate orally, not able to eat orally, and she also has very, very, very limited use or voluntary control, rather, over her limbs, her muscles, and whatnot. And so So watching her growing up and seeing her blossoming personality and her perseverance as a child with disability is what really inspired me to develop this whole series of God's Perfect Gift. And Winning the Race was the first book that I put out. And at the heart of each story in each book, overcoming challenges is at the heart of the story. But what it does is it helps to showcase, if you will, how these children, aspire to live life and experience life the same as healthy children who do not just live with disability. And I truly believe many disabled children cannot willfully do wrong as a result of that, because many cannot talk or walk, and in my mind, they're not able to contemplate, speak, or do intentional harm to others. And so when I thought about Sophia and meeting a lot of other children with similar type disabilities through our travels through, care, medical care for her and maintenance care at some of the comprehensive care pediatric units in various hospitals around, the Northeast Ohio area, I started to see these kinds of abilities that these kids have relative to them showing many examples of having unstoppable courage, strong will and determination, kind-heartedness, unconditional love, goodness, and inner beauty. And when I thought about it that way and I made the connection to God's perfect gift, I think those gifts were the abilities that He put in these children. So they're not physical, but in other ways they are emotional, they're soulful, and they're just innate things that He puts in them to enable them to be able to experience the world and the life that He has provided for them.
So I have to ask you, based on what you just shared, what are you seeing through the eyes of Sophia?
Through the eyes of Sophia, what we're seeing are these experiences that she's having every day. The opportunities to, how does it look to her, excuse me, to be involved in regular physical activities that other kids do. What does she have to do to be able to be involved in those activities? And then other ways that, how does it look to Sophia through her eyes to go to school and to learn and to experience, learning in a different way that other kids that don't have a disability may say, wow, this is really cool because they get to play with toys all day, and not understanding that these are adaptive toys that are able to teach children with disabilities like Sophia, who cannot talk and walk and whatnot, how to relate to their environment, whether it's teaching them colors, and it's such a unique way that they can do that. And so what I'm seeing through Sophia's eyes are the experiences that she's had that I've been blessed to be a part of, from doctor visits and how she is cared for there or treated there, and seeing her reaction to things that are done to her or for her hospital stays, her times with other kids in group settings where they're doing fun things, and being able to be a part of that has been really an eye-opener and has given me a lot of the information that I would have been researching online, having firsthand experience with it, to be able to relate these experiences through the stories of my books in this series.
So to continue with the thought, in you mentioning her not being able to speak and so forth, how does she communicate with you?
Sophia communicates in a lot of nonverbal ways, and there's simple things that she will do. Like when she was really young, and I realized that she could comprehend very well, and so I would say things to her like, Sophia, do you want to read this book or do you want me to read this book? And I'd say, whichever book you want me to read, when I hold it up, I want you to smile. And she would smile when she made her choice. And then, as things progressed, I advocated for her to get a. It's like people would look at it as a pad, and it's really a very very sweet little educational toy, and it's called Eye Gaze. And Eye Gaze is programmed with series of pictures of things that they want to teach Sophia. So if they're teaching colors, for example, and they're trying to get her to know the color yellow, that one example of how they do that with the eye gaze is there will be a picture of an apple, maybe a pear, and a banana on the screen. And then they will say, Sophia, which of these items, which of these pictures is yellow? And then wherever her eye focuses the longest, this machine has the advanced technology to record that as her selection. And then other ways that I would do that with her, just one-on-one, I would say, okay, are you tired of doing this? If you're tired of doing this, blink your eyes at Mama. And she would do that. Or sometimes I would say, okay, smile. You want to wear this dress or that dress? And she would smile at the dress that, I would put in front of her. Now, it wouldn't be instantaneous sometimes. Sometimes she'd look at both of them and look back at me. But I'd have to keep, the repetitive, putting it in front of her and then telling her how to communicate back with me. And then there's other things she'll do, like I could be pushing her in her wheelchair, and I will encounter people on our way to say maybe another part of the building, and I stop to talk, and she will take her feet and start kicking the footrest, and that means go. I want to go. And I would say, and even the people that she did it in front of said, oh, she wants to break up this conversation. You better get that thing moving. So there's nonverbal in her own way. Sometimes she'll cry, or she'll make out, she'll let out a noise that she's unhappy about something. And then other times laugh. So there's a lot of ways that, children like her who cannot talk have a way of letting their voice be heard, but in more of a nonverbal way.
I want to talk to you more about how children like Sophia can grow up and perhaps become productive members of society, or perhaps become creatives as you are, if it's possible, and a few other things that are kind of in the front of my head space right now. And we'll do that when we return. But I want to have you tell folks how they can get to your book. Okay,
sure.
Go ahead. How can folks get your book?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were going through that after the break. Yes, you can get my book through Amazon.com. I have 2 books on Amazon.com. They both start with God's Perfect Gift. And if you want to put in God's Perfect Gift, the first book was Winning the Race. And that's a whole different subject line, but it was my first book. Or you can go to Amazon and put in God's Perfect Gift. Special education is especially fun. Either one of those ways to go in and put in the phrase God's Perfect Gift, and then either special education, that'll bring up the book. Or if you want to get the first book, it would be God's Perfect Gift, Winning the Race.
Okay.
And then the other thing you can do is go to my website, which is www.godperfectgift, GodPerfectGift.com. And when you come into my website, you can buy the books from my website. And when you first come into the website, you will see a picture on the website. It's a free guide to becoming your disabled child's best advocate. You enter your name and email, and it will deliver the free. And once you click the button, Get Free Guide, it will deliver it to you, and you're able to print it off your screen.
Okay. Author Grace Rice is with us on Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU. We'll be right back after this.
We are WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united. United to enhance our community. United to be a beacon of hope. United to empower our community. WOVU 95.9. Our voices united.
Hi, this is Olivera Perkins from Signal Cleveland, and you're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Hi, this is Tara LaWanda Aaron. You're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Hi, I'm Candace Wilder from Signal Cleveland, and you're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and my conversation with author Grace Rice. She has a children's picture book series called God's Perfect Gift, Disability Through the Eyes of a Child, and her most recent book is Special Education is Especially Fun. We've been talking about someone who is close to her named Sophia, and she has revealed to us that they communicate non-verbally. She has her way of letting her know what she needs and what she wants to do, and that's beautiful. We've also talked about special education for young people, and we can also talk about education in general. You know, one of the things that I've noticed, Grace, is that education is not a one-size-fits-all paradigm. And I think one of the failures of our current education system is that they use this blanket approach when, you know, you have emotional needs that are being ignored. You have ways of learning that are being ignored, and you're just trying to push everything like a square peg through a round hole, and it doesn't always fit. Could you talk about how special education, as you see it, has been so beneficial for clients or students who have special needs, and perhaps where the other system could learn from what you're doing in special education?
Absolutely. Special education for Sophia and many children like Sophia has involved several different, several different avenues of how you communicate and how you develop children. It's not just talking to them, but it's actually engaging them in the learning process. And so to do that, you have to have creative ways of getting them actively involved so that everything is really interactive with these children. You can't just put them in like we went to school and sat in a desk all day and the teacher stood in front and gave us orders and directions and drew on the blackboard. It doesn't work that way. What these children need is a more tactical approach to learning. And so in doing so, there are a lot of adaptive toys and adaptive pieces of equipment that allow these children to do so many things, such as when I wrote Special Education is Especially Fun, I actually got my ideas from being involved in Sophia's learning and how she's taught. And so there are a lot of switch toys that they will use with children like Sophia. And they will teach them how to, maybe hit a big red button that makes a doggy walk or talk. Or bark, rather. Or there'll be an opportunity where, they have a chance to be in a classroom setting and the teacher is reading a story and then maybe she puts up a picture in front of them and she talks about the picture. But the other thing is in their physical therapy, their speech therapy, the occupational therapy. You asked me before the break how children, might be able to have disabilities but end up becoming functioning, folks who can walk around, talk, even have maybe a job that's not so, taxing for them, that they can be be able to do the work that they're being assigned to. And so where I saw a lot of development, even tying it to intellectual as well as physical and occupational, because as you're teaching them these things, it's got to register in the brain, right? And in their heads that they remember how to repeat those things. So an example, they have something called a gait trainer. A gait trainer looks like an adult walker, but it's different. It's something that, like in Sophia's case, when she was really little, and she was able to walk with the assistance of this, they would put on, special braces on her legs. She would have something, on her torso and back area, that would, help her be able to stand up erectly, and then maybe even little gloves, special gloves on her hands that would keep her hands straightened out instead of curling in like it does for a lot of kids with CP. And so they would be able to kind of strap in her hand on the arms of the walker, and then teach her how to put one foot in front of the other, and then try to walk in the gait trainer. And so this involved, the therapist maybe getting along and helping the kid. The gait trainer also had a little seat in it that if they got tired and they wanted to go down, they could go down on the seat and sit in the seat. And then the gait trainers would train them on how to walk in the gait trainer, even if it meant gently helping them learn how to pick up the foot and put it forward while holding. So all of the things that they're doing just in the gait trainer is registering something in their minds that they're able to learn and to repeat these actions, because they're going through the therapy on a regular basis to learn how to walk and take steps. And so that's one thing that they do. They have another piece of equipment, and it's called a supine board. And it's where you lay the child on this board, and then you push, you turn the board up, and it's vertical. And it helps to teach the children how to, like you'll see some kids in a wheelchair that might bend over all the time with their head hanging down or off to the side. So it's helping them, even in Sophia's case, with, she has a soft collar, they call it. And it's sort of like a soft neck brace to help her keep her head and her chin up. And so in the supine board, she's able to stand up straight in the board. And I know this sounds crazy, but they'll push the board from the back and push her like around a course where she can see that by being upright, I'm able to move around this way. And so eventually maybe there'll be a connection with the walker to move the legs, but still be able to stand up straight when she's doing that. So it's a combination of things that they do. Occupational therapy is where they work on kids depending on the severity of the paralysis. Some kids are able to grasp things, and they teach them how to hold things a certain way, or even if it's something as simple as putting a crayon in their hands. And I've been down to her creative arts sessions with her, and they've got all kind of equipment down there that would help a child be able to paint a picture. And I've seen Sophia do that. And if you saw some of the tools that they use to teach these kids, like you might be doing a painting that's something where you are using a gun that looks like a toy water gun, and you just gently touch it, and it will shoot out a color of paint onto a canvas. And so some of the kids are stronger than Sophia, and they're able to hold it, maybe with the art teacher holding the hand with them and using the tool, but helping them to create a piece of art. And so, and then they have the rescue therapy, where that's one of Sophia's favorite things because they put them in the pool, they put a little floaty around her, they're right there with her, holding her, and she's kicking her legs, and they're moving her along, and she's kicking her legs, she's learning how to swim. And then, maybe they'll take her arms and let her splash in the water. So there's all kinds of things that they do, and they have been able to get some kids that have come there weren't talking because they had a traumatic experience as a child, and it did something to them that it shut them down quietly, and they didn't talk, and they've been able to get them to talk again by either the physical, the occupational, the speech, the aqua therapy, and just involving with these kids and keeping them in learning environments where all day long it looks like they're just playing with toys, they're moving blocks around, or they're rolling a little red ball and knock these plastic pins on the floor. But that's how they do. It's all very interactive. And it's all about the child and getting the child to realize what they can do, and then celebrating every little accomplishment that they make, every little step forward, every little extra minute that they stand in the gate trainer. Then they celebrate so that the kid knows that this is something good, and you're reinforcing that, behavior in the child.
Well, it's really amazing when you talk about them being involved in the creative process, using the tools that are at their disposal. It's heartwarming to know that they have an ability to be creative, and it speaks to the power of art.
Yes.
So with that said, I was asking earlier about their ability to be productive members of society. Do you see this as an extension of that, and them being able to create perhaps a living out of creating art?
Yes, they do, and they have children who do that. There are some children that grow up in, like, the facility that I have Sophia at is for intellectually and developmentally disabled children. You cannot be mobile. You cannot be walking around on your own to live there. But then they have other facilities like these group homes, and there's a lot of children that grew up in the facility that Sophia's in, but they weren't. They were able to gain mobility and then get out, and they work little jobs. And they may not have ever been in a facility. They might have come out of a regular school, like a public school, where they attended school and they split off from the general ed classes, like going to the library and hearing a story read, to going into the classes where they're special educational classes. And through the learning that they get there, they are prepared for, jobs that aren't as demanding. It just depends on their level of astuteness intellectually, and how they could have been mildly disabled. And so by going through all of these different therapies that they may have been going through over the years, combined with their schooling and whatnot, they're able to come out and go. And you will see the children like this working in grocery stores maybe, or other places where they might be able to help out in some meaningful way. I have a little neighbor down the street who's 16 now, and she's mildly handicapped, but she still has to do a lot of the things that my Sophia has to do because she's tube fed. But she had a summer job at the library. Okay. And it was just helping people go to where, the books were that they needed to get to.
Yes.
So just because these kids are disabled doesn't mean that they're not able to learn and that they don't have a brain.
Right.
And you will look up, and there are stories out there. I can't quote anybody in particular, Vince, but I have heard stories of people that were maybe autistic that became excellent musicians, excellent artists.
Yeah, there's no question that this is not a segment of the population to be thrown away. These are people who have
Absolutely
gifts
not.
that can be shared, and we're going to talk a bit more about that. And I also want to talk to you about the other portion that we talked about, and that's skilled nursing facilities and the shortages there. So we want to make sure we cover all the bases. So we'll get to that when we return. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Bell Car Community Radio. We'll be back.
This is DJ Chris Dowles, Programs and Music Director here at WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Car Community Radio station. WOVU 95.9 FM sends a big thank you to the entire staff of the St. Luke's Foundation and President and CEO Timothy Tramble for awarding WOVU 95.9 FM $25,000 to purchase the WOVU 95.9 FM mobile vehicle. On behalf of our entire team, our Executive Director, Joy Johnson, and Executive Board, we said thank you, St. Luke's Foundation, for continuing addressing social determinants of health for our people in our neighborhoods and throughout Cuyahoga County. Thank you. This message is being brought to you by WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Car Community Radio station.
And we're back. Open Door with Vince Robinson. Conversation with Grace Rice, the author of a children's picture book series called God's Perfect Gift, Disability Through the Eyes of a Child, and her latest book, which is Special Education is Especially Fun. We've had an extensive conversation about someone that she is acting as a caregiver for, and as I listen to you talk about the things that you have her involved in and the fact that it's so rewarding to her, I can't help but think that seeing her experience happiness and joy and bliss from the things that you are doing has to bring a great deal of satisfaction and joy to your life. And I would also have to imagine that there are probably a lot of parents who are going through what you're going through, who decided that they weren't going to give up on their child and they were going to do whatever they could to make sure that that child had a life that was filled with reward. So I just want to give you kudos for that. I also want to ask you about how you came to have so much knowledge about the process that you were able to translate it into books.
Oh, boy. Well, I grew up, I think I may have mentioned this before in another conversation, but I was always interested in creative writing. I had a wild imagination as a young child, and I used to get joy out of just seeing if I could write a poem. And then I practiced, making sure that it rhymed. It was one of those rhyming poems where every, other sentence, the N word rhymed with the one before it. So I did a lot of writing poetries, and then as I was growing up in school and we got to classes where we had to write essays, that was my favorite class, like in English, writing an essay. And then I started, I remember when I got to, I think it was for my 16th birthday, my grandmother gave me a monogrammed leather diary. And it was a diary that you could zip up and lock with a little key. And I was all into that diary. Every day I would come home and I'd write in my diary. And then sometimes I'd go back and I'd see what I did, what I wrote the week before, and then I'd go back even further, and then I would reflect on things that I was doing just to see if I was, just what was going on with Grace. And so then that creative writing led me to other things, so I decided when I was going to go to college that, I wanted to major in communications, because John Carroll was offering a bachelor's curriculum that involved communicating, marketing, and advertising. And I thought, well, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to go into that. I want to be in sales. I want to talk to people. And so I started, journaling, and as part of the learning the things that I was learning, I was journaling all the way along there. So, and then I started blogging. And so I actually had set up a website, goodgriefforyou.com, and it's a community space for healing where we just blog about, it's a safe place to come, and if you just want to share thoughts you have or just, talk about what your journey's been like, maybe it could be something that would help somebody else along their way. So that's what really got me interested in doing the books. So having Sophia, as I had mentioned before, and being her legal guardian, it got to a point where I wasn't able to give Sophia the 24/7 skilled nursing care that she needed. I was not a nurse, but I was learning a lot of things about how to care for her, but I had to find some place that would be able to provide it on a 24/7 program. And so, but watching Sophia, all the time that Sophia was with me, I was journaling. And I was journaling about these things she was doing. And then when I started having, I was total caregiver at that point as well, and being involved in taking her down to her, pediatric visits that she would go to. And if anybody has a disabled child out there, they know that it's not just you go see the pediatrician, they look at them and they're done. You go through what's called comprehensive pediatric care. So when you go, you visit the heart doctor, you visit the nutritionist, you visit, the orthopedic doctor, you visit the GI doctor. And so going, and visiting all of these folks, and I'm journaling all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, I said, I'm getting a lot of information, but I'm also meeting a lot of families with kids like Sophia. And I'm just getting so attached to these kids, just seeing all their little personalities playing out when we're together in these rooms waiting on our turn to go in and see the doctor. And so I said, what can I do to just spread some happiness to these kids? What can I do for these kids that would maybe make them, see something or hear something that would make them feel good about who they are and what they can do? And so then the idea hit me when I was doing the blogging. My sister told me, she goes, you're so great at communications, Grace. She said, you just know the right thing to say. Everybody comes up and they talk to you, and you engage with people so well. And she goes, you write in that blog, why don't you write a book? Write a book about Sophia. And so that's what really started it. And so then I started, like I said, from going in there and seeing, all these things that she could do and noticing these little abilities that she did display. And they weren't tangible, like physical things that people would normally be looking for, like, oh, she's a good ball player, or boy, she's really tall, she can run fast. It wasn't that. It was the abilities from within. And that's for that strong will and determination and just watching her like that. So I decided to venture out, but then I relied on my schooling, and I just started it from bare bones. I made myself a mind map, and my mind map was my ideas. And so in the center was that I wanted to write a children's picture book. And then I had these little tentacles coming off of that little circle in the middle, and every tentacle was, what aspect of her life do I want to talk about in these books? Whether it's how she learns, how she, her therapy, the different therapies that she's getting. And so as I started, thinking about it and going and thinking about, okay, what's my vision? I made a vision, mission, statement. I did a SWOT analysis. I'm doing all this stuff. But it was good that I did it because it helped me to organize my thoughts. And then I started hitting the internet, and I found just a plethora of information about, like the things that I give out on my free guide on my website. There's tips that are on there for how you become your disabled child's best advocate. And so in doing so, how do you advocate for them if they have disability, autism, or other additional needs? And then, it also talks about, you as an advocate knowing your rights and how to advocate for your child in a way that you get the kind of help that your child needs, and what are the steps to doing that. So doing all of this research, and I found a ton of excellent research, even things like 10 tips for writing your first children's book, or how to write a children's book, and its do's and don'ts and steps to take, and how do I become a self-publisher, because that's what I am. And I go to the library, get books on self-publishing, go to the internet, get articles, download them, print them out, and study them. And everybody had different additional things that were very helpful. So just growing my kind of wealth of learning and wealth of knowledge that I got from learning from all of this information that was out there, and then coming down to, okay, now you got to get down to what is this book about, and making sure you stay on topic with what that book is about and don't go down a rabbit hole talking about something else. So that's really what got me doing it, and I'm blessed that I have the most amazing illustrator that anybody in this whole world would want to have, and that's my cousin, Jerome White. And he is the art teacher for the Cleveland
Wait a minute. Wait.
What?
6 degrees of separation are only one. And as you were talking, I was thinking, okay, so she's talked about writing, but it's a picture book, so there have to be images. Where do the images come from? And before I could ask that question, you mentioned that your illustrator is one of my very favorite artists,
my cousin
in life, and he's your cousin.
Is Jerome White.
That's incredible.
And he is the art teacher for Cleveland Heights School System. He's also well reputed in his own right. He has done murals for the Stephanie Tubbs Jones corridor at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. He did a mural on the building that houses the old Negro Baseball League down in the inner city. He has done framed murals, framed paintings. He is very, very well known in the area. He's been featured on many of the local television stations, doing different art events and involved in different art programs around the city and outside of the state of Ohio.
Well, I am privileged to have been in a show that we were both featured in at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. I had 14 pictures up, and he had a number of his paintings up. We were also involved in a show at Cleveland City Hall last February, Black History Month, and our artwork stayed up at City Hall for about 3 or 4 months. And then recently he put up a few murals over there in University Circle in the proximity of the Artist Archives of the Western Reserve, that the History Center.
The Crawford Auto Museum, Western Reserve. Historical Society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. And he is actually your cousin. I'm just blown away in this moment.
Yeah, he is my cousin, my real life cousin.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that said, I'm sure that these books that you are publishing are literally artistic masterpieces. So if you get it for no other reason, you can get it for the artwork of Jerome White. But you have a narrative that is provided by Grace Rice, and she's very near and dear to the subject matter. So we want to encourage you to look into these books. You can go to Amazon. You can also go to godperfectgift.com, and you can get your books there. You can also access her blog by going to goodgriefforyou.com, and we'll give you some other information about her when we return. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Yeah, Vince, if I could just... Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
If I could just interject, it's God, not plural God, just God, perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll make sure that we put that in the description for the video so those who see this as a podcast will know that there's no S in that. We'll be right back right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Hey listeners, here at WOVU 95.9 FM, we want to stay connected with you. So like our page on Facebook, which is WOVU 95.9 FM, or you can call our request line at 216-271-0959. Again, that is 216-271-0959. Also, don't forget to visit our website at WOVU.org. Keep it locked on WOVU 95.9 FM, a BBC community radio station.
We are WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united. United to enhance our community. United to be a beacon of hope. United to empower our community. WOVU 95.9. Our voices united.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson and this great conversation that I'm having with Grace Rice. And I got to throw this in here because I mentioned it to her a couple of times. I had a very dear friend when I was in high school. His name was Paul Hardy. Paul has joined the Ancestors. I think it happened maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I had two best friends. It was Paul and it was Michael Richardson. But Paul's mother's name was Grace Rice. So when I met Grace, I just couldn't get it out of my head that I knew someone else named Grace Rice. I'm very happy to know this Grace Rice because I'm sure the other one is also with the Ancestors as well. And she's doing some magnificent things when it comes to children who have special needs and disabilities. She's written a picture book series called God's Perfect Gift, Disability Through the Eyes of a Child. And her latest edition in that series is Special Education is Especially Fun. And we talked about that. We've talked about the person that she has been a caregiver for by the name of Sophia. But I also mentioned that we encountered each other at an event that I did at Larchmere Arts a few weeks ago. And she was there with her friend, Jesse Ruffin Jr. Jesse Ruffin is also an advocate. And he is promoting something that is called a Nursing Facilities Patients Bill of Rights, also known as Carolyn's Law. So, Grace, I know that this is also something that you're passionate about. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to that subject and the importance of it in your life.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I've been involved in the Carolyn's Law petition initiative probably for about 3 years now. And I had known Jesse for 35 years prior to getting involved. He had helped my husband and I with our real estate efforts. And so I came on board because when I heard about what he was doing with Carolyn's Law, I was just so really intrigued by it because I had the experience that is giving Jesse one of the motives for doing Carolyn's Law through my walk with my husband and his cancer journey and being in and out of a lot of, skilled inpatient rehabilitation centers and nursing homes. And so that's what got me involved in helping with Carolyn's Law. And when I first came on board, I thought that maybe, where could I fit in and be of the most help? And so that was really initially and still to this day being, able to go out as part of the team when we have these opportunities to go around where there are venues going on that have large enough audiences that we can tell our story about Carolyn's Law and help get more signatures onto the petitions. The team, and Jesse in particular, has been tasked with a tall order by the Ohio government to be able to do this. He has to go and first of all, he's been certified to do this petition by the Ohio Attorney General, and then the Ohio Ballot Board has tasked him to go in all 88 counties throughout the state of Ohio and bring back a fixed number of valid registered voter in ink signatures to the tune of 450,000. And so we know that there's going to be a lot of signatures that could get eliminated and thrown out, because sometimes people sign the petition and don't remember that they haven't kept their voter registration up to task, up to the level that it needs to be at to be able to be considered valid, or that they haven't registered at all, or they may have not understood that if you move and you change your address, you have to update your voter ID with that as well. And then also, if you get married and your name changes, you have to update your voter ID with that. So we know that, we don't always think when we're in the midst of having, 35 people standing in front of us to sign the petition, you don't have that time to go through and say, now, have you moved recently? Did you get married and change your name? And it's probably something that would be to our advantage to do that if we could, but sometimes things are moving fast and you're just, are you a registered voter? They say yes, and then they sign the petition. And so we know that there's going to be instances where once it goes through the Secretary of State's validations process, there's going to be a lot of the registration signatures thrown out. So we are trying to double that amount of signatures, and we feel like if we reach for 1 million signatures, or even fall down to 900,000 signatures before we turn it in, then we feel like we'll have a really, really good chance of landing on that 450,000 signatures. And we're doing this as a referendum. And what that means is that we're asking for an addendum or an amendment to the Constitution and the Ohio Constitution to say that there will be a minimum or a limit placed on the number of patients assigned to nurses and nurse aides in these facilities like skilled nursing homes, regular nursing homes, and rehabilitation centers across the state of Ohio. This is not pertaining to hospitals. They are going to do their own thing. But this is specifically a single subject petition, meaning that we're only focusing on nursing facilities, whether they're rehab nursing or they're just straight out nursing homes in the state of Ohio, that we want these ratios brought down, because right now our nurses are so overwhelmed that we are bleeding them right out of the industry, because no one wants to work with an unfathomable workload of patients where everything suffers. The direct care hours that they are required to get are cut way short because they have too many patients on their schedule for that day. Now it becomes a situation where you're interfering with actual how the quality of the life for these people. Many of the people in these nursing homes, to my surprise, going through what I went through, don't have families. And so who becomes the family? It's really more often the nurse, but more often than that, the nurse aide, because they're the ones that do the real, personal care for that person in that nursing home. And when you're strapped with 20, 25, we've heard as high as 40 patients on one particular nurse in one 12-hour shift, when you have that many patients, it becomes like an assembly line where you're just checking the box. Okay, I got that one's med. this one got, a bath, this one got that, and there's no time to sit with that patient, talk to them, and be able to, let them know that somebody cares and somebody wants to know how you are doing and share that love on those people. So the thing that we're trying to get the change for is to finally, in the state of Ohio, establish a law that there can be no more than 8. A max of 8 patients to one nurse or to one nurse aide at any given time during their work shift. And then depending on the level of acuity, meaning the critical care needs of that person, let's say that person is in hospice, it might drop down to no more than 4, to below 5 patients on one nurse or one nurse aide if that person is in hospice or they have such extreme critical care needs that there's a lot of treatments that take a while to give them or other, kind of care that is administered, then it could be, as low as 3 patients to one nurse aide. So this is a wonderful thing that we are trying to do, because what's going to happen is to have this happen as a referendum, meaning we're going to amend the Constitution to add this, clause to it to establish this law. Then we've had to make sure we've got the right agencies in place to govern over that and ensure that it happens. So then you got to get the Department of Nursing, the Board of Health, for those counties and whatnot affected by this. So the way it gets into law is it goes to the ballot box for the people to vote. And so that's why people are getting excited about wanting to sign the petition. And we're telling them we just got to get to that magic number, folks. Help us get to the 450,000, and they will let it. That's when the Ohio Attorney General said that he would allow it to go to the ballot box.
Yes.
If they can validate that many.
Right, and so
and we know it'll get voted in. We know it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, because when it gets to the ballot, then the next part of the equation is that people have to vote so that it becomes law, and they're going to need to be informed about that. I didn't want his story to get lost in the description of the issue, but what happened with Jesse is that his wife had brain surgery, and after her brain surgery, she went into a skilled nursing facility, and as a result of what happened in that facility, she transitioned. So, it's something that he's extremely passionate about, and it's really necessary for folks who experience those kinds of things to take things to the next level. So sometimes you can get a triumph out of tragedy, and we're looking down the road, and we're very hopeful that you'll be successful in getting this ballot initiative passed, so that we can see a greater level of care for those loved ones who are in nursing facilities around the state. I'm also thinking about that whole ratio situation. It kind of mirrors what happens in lots of classrooms where you have 50 students in a class, and one teacher. And that just does not give that teacher an ability to deal with those students on an individual basis in a way that's meaningful to them. I speak from the experience of having a father who was in the VA hospital for the last 3 years of his life, and what I witnessed in, the Lewis Stokes VA medical facility and the one down in Chillicothe, but primarily the one up here, was that there were many times when I could see that my father was not getting the treatment that he should have gotten.
Right.
And it's just because they're stretched. And the truth of the matter is that companies, private corporations, and government as well, they want to do the most with less. So and so when you talk about adding more nurses or adding more teachers or whatever, then you're talking about increasing the personnel costs, because that's in many cases the highest expense for a business. So they're always looking for ways to cut corners, but it's not always in the best interest of patients or students. So we definitely want people to know about this, and we definitely want people to sign the petition. And when it gets on the ballot, make sure that you vote. Grace Rice, I have to tell you, it's been a great pleasure to have this conversation with you. We want to remind folks that if they want to get your book, they can go to godperfectgift.com. And I'd rather you go there than Amazon, because she'll get a greater share of her work from that. So go to godperfectgift.com and go to Amazon. You can also connect with her on Instagram at God's Perfect Gift LLC. And we'll put all this information in the description to this video when you go to my YouTube channel to see it. Grace, once again, thanks for joining us on Open Door.
Thank you so much, Vince. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you guys today. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. And as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace.